Hey YouTube, it's Eternal Frost there. Sorry for that brief interrupt. I guess we'll call this part 2 of the classes and characters. So here I am with the Ironbreaker. It didn't load last time, so apologies there. Last time we reviewed Marcus Kruber, his 3 classes, and then of course the Ranger class for Bardin. So the Ironbreaker is my favorite class with Bardin, like I mentioned earlier. I've got with him the trusty axe and shield, and for the same reasons, I've equipped this just as the same as with Marcus's sword and shield, and I think it's far more useful than the sword and shield. The axe and shield is quite versatile, mostly because the axe does a lot of AP, has fast attacks, and the shield, again, is good for crowd control. As you can see, he's got a shit ton of shields and stamina, so he can block 4 days, shove 4 days. You saw I did a riposte right there on accident. There it is. It's a single hit AP. It's not very good at sweeping attacks there, but his shield will do a 180 hit, followed by a AP, and then I think it's another sweep with the axe. Yeah, there you go, sweep with the axe. Whereas his single strikes are small sweeps, but they're also relatively AP. So his attacks like this, his spam normal attacks, are great at shields, great at cutting through armor, and again, his shield is good for crowd control, so that's always a good thing. So the axe and shield is good for every situation. It's a little bit close range, but that's where Bardin likes to fight, right? And speaking of close range, with the Ironbreaker, you start to unlock some interesting guns, most notably the Drake gun, and this by far is my favorite, and I'm sure some other people call it their favorite too. Took a bit for that texture to load there. And that's because it's a big-ass flamethrower, and so it has further range than you might think. As you can see here, I'm pretty far away, and there you go. Right there is where it's going to hit. So I'm right at about maximum range. The way to really use this thing, you can see it builds heat. There's that heat bar at the bottom. You can hold charge to build up that heat. And then you'll see that little red flames come out if you start to hold it for too long. Or is it too long? Because once those red flames are out, that's your cue to let loose with the left button. And you can just kind of hold on to it for days if you've charged it long enough, right? So this allows you to simply, as you see me doing here, if I'm holding a door, that's really bad news for something on the other side of that door. If I need a nice quick gout in front of my friends, there you go. Really good at clearing hordes. Like, yeah, there are other ways to clear hordes, but that is one of the most satisfying ways to do it. Be careful, because if you overheat too much, you're going to slow yourself down. The primary attack on this thing is just a brief gout, like you just saw there. Doesn't do a lot of damage. Takes a lot of heat. Useful in a jam. It will stun specials. So if you've got like a Gatling gunner or something like this far away from you, spam this as you approach to keep him on his toes, and then hit him in the face. Right? You'll notice that I'm moving a little bit slower because my heat's really high up. Anyway, that Drake gun is probably my favorite weapon in the game. So what's he got for talents? Well, you got for skills, you got your Gromroll armor, which is fantastic, especially for newer players. Basically, every 20 seconds, you can absorb 1 hit and not worry about it. That can be any hit, right? So Troll gets you in the face, someone stabs you in the back, whatever, you ignore it. No damage. Nice. And for those that, if you get hit more than once every 20 seconds, you're going to just overall be receiving less damage all around. You saw his increase in stamina and his increase in stun resistance, which means he's not going to get interrupted too much. Or if he takes a big hit, it's not going to really affect him. Big hits like the overhead swings on the Chaos Warriors, if you get hit by them, you'll notice like your ears start ringing, everything kind of turns gray, and you start moving really slowly. That's a stun. He's less affected by it, right, as you can see. His career skill is impenetrable, as you can see there. So basically, anyone within a radius, and you see that radius when you hold F, anyone in that blue circle there will be taunted to attack Bardin after a brief stun. So, I wouldn't call it a stun so much as they kind of stand up and look at you, but in that time you're already likely moving. What's also more important is that you get increased defense and can block any attack for the next 10 seconds. So it's basically your key to saying, hey, you know what, guys? I don't care about how much stamina I have. Have at it. And you can hold a door forever, well, at least for 10 seconds, right? Against as many things as you need. Buy your guy's time. Or if someone's getting swamped and you see him, you know, he's about to go down, hit that taunt, have them all stand up and turn around to look at you. And that gets some interesting options in his talents, as we're about to look. With his talents, you get your normal random stuff. So your 5s and 10s are going to be unique to the class. For his 5, you've got increased angle for block and push. So if you remember that angle that comes up with your weapons, here my axe and shield is 180 degrees. I can have a bigger angle. I don't know how big that thing can get, but there it goes. You get a bigger angle for that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. You can increase your max health, which can be interesting, especially if you're spamming trinkets and stuff that give you increased health. I mean, you could have, 3 trinkets, each giving you like 20% health, and then you can increase that 20% health. That's a lot of health. I mean, granted, you take a lot more damage in higher difficulty, so I'm not sure how much that's going to help you. Maybe buy you a couple or a few extra hits, depending on how you stack it. But again, like I said, it's more about preventing damage rather than mitigating it, and that's why I picked granting an extra stamina shield. Again, shields for days. This means as long as I'm on top of my blocking, I should theoretically never run out of shields. I think in the, I don't know how many hours I've been playing this, I've lost my shields. Well, I've run out of shields with Ironbreaker once. That's a lot of hours to run out of shields. But yeah, there it is. Level 10. You can revive an ally, reduce their damage taken. This is also an ability you can get with oranges. I wonder if all of these are like orange traits that you can get. Anyway, sidetrack there. You can decrease the amount of overheat. If you really like that Drake gun, be an Iron Drake. Fulfill your dreams. Flame on forever, man. Shine bright. His third one is Miner's Rhythm, which basically recovers your stamina after you've done a charge attack. Now, for me, this is perfect, because it says after you've done a charge attack, you basically get increased stamina regen 40% for 2 seconds, and I find that that is when I typically need the stamina, is those charge attacks. So if I'm using a charge attack, there's 2 reasons. One, I'm either jumping in to a group of people, or I'm trying to buy myself time. And so in those cases, a successful hit with my charge attack is likely going to be useful in restoring shields that I just spent. Again, preventing damage, not mitigating it, right? Oops, I keep on hitting escape instead of inventory. First level 15 skills. Increase stamina regen when you're active and on. And again, if you recall, these are typically the things that you start to share stuff with other people. Here, not so much. I mean, the Ironbreaker's Resolve for Impenetrable. I'm sorry, these are all affecting Bardin's passives. So, again, increased stamina regen, kind of nice. Rune Forge, that means you recover 10 whenever you absorb a hit. And then, of course, cooldown on Gromwell Armor. And that Gromwell is like every 20 seconds, that passive ability, right? So what's nice is once every 20 seconds, this is going to prevent damage, right? So if you actually take a hit, well, you might just recover it back, right? So I found that to probably be the easiest way to mitigate or to prevent damage is if you do get hit, make it so that you're going to gain your stuff back. But with all the other stacks on stamina, I didn't feel like I really needed more stamina regen. For level 20, it's your same crit, your temp, permanent health, crit, kill. And then for 25, you start to look at changing impenetrable. So increase the duration. That's 50%. That's a pretty big increase. Increase the radius, maybe save people a little bit further from you. And then finally, now forces bosses to attack Bardin. Ultimately, I'll probably pick this last one because what I've noticed with the mini bosses, sometimes you get that chaos spawn that is fixated on the elf for some reason or another, and no matter how many times you shoot it in the butt or axe it in the face, it just keeps on trying to kill the elf. Well, here, you can use this and pull the heat off some of your buddies. You're going to be able to take a hit, maybe even heal off of it, and plus you should have shields for days. So you're designed to tank, why not fulfill that purpose, right? The next class for Bardin is a Slayer. I've actually covered this class before, so I'm not going to go as deep into it, but I will cover the talents. So you know that he's really good at getting through shields, has really high attack speed. He's got that fantastic leap that if you actually land on someone, you actually bounce and keep on going. You can leap quite far that way. I have given him all the sharp things that dwarves can use, as he is a slayer, and yeah, that's pretty much it for weapons. For talents, he can increase his health, which can be interesting, especially if you've got those trinkets and whatnot. You have critical chance increase, which I picked because in this case, I want to increase his critical chance as much as possible. He's pure damage output, so the more crits I can get in, the more damage you can do. Dodge range, which is actually pretty useful. It's good at dodging large attacks by like Chaos Warriors. He's already got a good dodge range, but there it is. Oh, I forgot to cover his skills. My apologies there. Passive ability. You hit an enemy, it takes more damage. You have faster attack speed. Its career skill is that leap, like I mentioned. And once you do it, you also gain that burst of attack speed. This leap does cause a small AoE stun, so it's really good at interrupting things as well. Note that you do have to land for it to work. So if you get shot in midair, that's not going to help you. Anyway, level 10. Damage from one attack can't exceed 25. This does a couple things. One, it helps prevent you from being stunned because high damage hits stun you, right? Also, it kind of helps mitigate anything that you do take as damage. And in this case, since you're going to be attacking a lot of the time, there isn't a lot of room for mitigation. You can dodge a lot. It's about mostly what I've done to avoid damage. This class is very hard to block with, at least for me, because I'm constantly spamming the attacks. You can also increase your movement speed if someone's dead, or you can cause enemies to take increased damage. The thing why I didn't pick this one, even though I've stacked my critical hits, is, matter of fact, things are going to go down so fast this isn't going to even matter once you're in this. That's really going to be only good at taking down bosses, and hopefully you've got a coordinated enough team where people are going to be spamming skills that increase critical hits anyway, so I didn't find that to be too useful. It's level 15s. You're increasing the buffs from your jump, you are increasing the defense with your jump, and of course you can reduce the cooldown of your jump. And the thing is, I picked Trophy Hunter because I tend to get hit a lot in this class, much more so than any other class I play. So I was hoping that this would help somehow. I'm not sure what increased defense does. Someone tell me. I'm assuming it helps mitigate damage being taken. And the leap recharges so fast, I don't really feel like it's needed to decrease that cooldown, right? I got swing because I got the thing active. Okay, I'll stop. Level 20, your same temporary maximum, and then of course modifiers to your active skill. So you can increase the damage dealt when you hit people on landing. You can make your attacks uninterruptible, just like the Berserkers do, or the Plague Monks. And then finally, your leap can also increase your movement speed by 25. This is probably going to be what I do. 25% is huge. Just all out huge. It's called no escape for a reason. If you jump after someone and they try to run away, no, it's only going to end up in broken, shattered dreams for them. So anyway, okay, so that's Bardin and how I have him spec'd out. Typically, as a bot, I have him sitting as a Ranger Veteran, because the Ranger Veteran, again, is going to give me that passive drop bonus. So, moving on to Kerillian. So with Kerillian, honestly, you only need two things with Kerillian, and that's this spear. Three things. You need the spear, you need the longbow, and you need the Waystalker. That's it. You're done. You've mastered Kerillian. Other classes are interesting, but I mean, look at this. Passive regen, doubled ammo capacity, no range damage fall off, ranged weapon zoom. I mean, she can just look at how accurate. Look at her reticle. Unlike Kruber's reticle, after she's held onto it, do you hear that noise? It's still going. I'm gonna go back and see if I can kill that noise really quick. This is a beta, so what I'm going to do here is, you hear that noise from Bardin's thing, so I'm going to cue it again. Actually, wait, there's a way to do this. So you can explore the keep with me as I do this. I was going to splice together that other video, but I decided that instead I was just going to keep it as a two-parter. That way it's just a little bit easier to digest, so grab one of those purple potions just in case. There you go.
I don't want to hurry.
Oh, now it's doubled up. That's great. Dun 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 dun. Oh, so cleared up. Good times. Anyway, back to Kerillian's. Oh, first go to the Ranger. So the bot is going to be a Ranger. Then we're going to go to Kerillian as the way starter. So yeah, most OP class ever. That fast regen plus these two weapons and this insane reticle snap and no range damage fall off. She is incredibly good at hitting targets at range. And I think that wasn't a headshot. There you go. See? Notice how I had to aim above it. So if I aim at the head, I actually didn't shoot the head. I shot the body there. If I aim a little above the head, bam, headshot. Anyway, so there's an arc. See? Just like I mentioned. This thing is also incredibly good. The longbow is also incredibly good at mowing down oncoming units. You find something like here, where there's a narrow walkway and they're all charging at you, literally, and you'll see in some of my other videos, you just spam at about head level height, and you will pierce 3 to 4 rats per shot. And so this mows down groups of enemies, hordes of enemies, very, very quickly. So that's the thing. The spear, I like the spear because, one, it's got lots of reach. You can see I'm stabbing at a pretty far distance here. That third normal strike is a sweep. Oh, I'm sorry, the fourth normal strike is a sweep. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. 1, 2. Oh god. It's the third strike. I know it's the third strike, but 1, 2, sweep. And then the charge attack is a sweep, followed by a nice stab, right? And that stab is really good at just hammering it home into someone's head. The reason why I like this is, like Saltspire's Rapier, it's very pinpoint. And you can get a little bit of sweep with that poke there. There is a little bit of wiggle room. So if you're moving when you do that poke, you can get 1 or 2 headshots in a row. It's kind of nice. And combined with the reach, the armor penetration, and her sheer mobility, dancing around targets, getting behind them, poking them at a distance, it's just a very versatile weapon, and it can take down armored targets with ease. You heard her skills. Her true shot volley is also incredible because it will send 3 true flight arrows, which will pierce and guarantee most of the time a kill on highlighted specials. So in a jam, you fire that can mow down more things if there isn't anything out there that you're too worried about, because it charges pretty quick. Or you can murder specials without even looking at them, shooting around corners and whatnot. So those do track. If you hold down the actions key, it will highlight your target, and it will go primarily for that target. So if there's something specific you want to kill, that's the way to do it. Well, their talents: increase attack speed, increase crit chance, increase stamina regen. Between these two, the crit chance and the attack speed, I just went with attack speed only because that helps the spear deal with bigger hordes. For her level 10, you get increased ammunition, or returned ammunition on boss death. You can gain critical hits at above 25% health, and of course you can increase damage on headshots. I did the critical hits because you will probably get more critical hits with all your weapons rather than just headshots all the time. Although headshots are nice, and it's nice to do headshots all the time, I don't know how much 50 damage is, and compared to basically increased critical damage, I'm going to guess that she's going to be doing a lot more damage with the critical hits, and it's going to proc more often. As to being above 25%, you should be at all times, in theory, right? And if you're not there, you're going to regenerate to get to that point. So there it is. For level 15, you've got a couple things. You can increase her health regeneration, you can recover arrows or bolts, or you can make her regeneration apply to all the party members. Now, it's kind of rough here. Now, you see that I've picked that rejuvenating locust because I thought that would be really great for the bot, but it turns out that that regen is so slow once you've halved it, have that effect, that I'm not sure if it's actually worth it. Bardin's tools for keeping people alive is much more useful, in my opinion, so I'm probably going to just leave her at Vol's Quiver when I play her so that I can regenerate things from her. So 20 is, as you know, the temporary health and the permanent health. And then finally for 25 you have reduction of the true shot volley, which is nice. Recovering health on the true shot volley, which is kind of redundant with the regen. And of course, you can recover ammunition on true shot volley, which might not be a bad deal. Between these two, I'm not sure if I want the reduced cooldown, probably that, because that requires no ammo, or the recovery of ammunition, because ammunition, you can go through arrows really quick. Even if you've got 54 of them, you'd be surprised how quickly she can chew through those. So next we have her handmaiden class, which is basically her, I don't know, it's like you get this range class. I guess this would fulfill as more of her tanking or combat class. Now she has the Dance of Seasons, which increases her dodge distance, which is kind of nice, makes it a lot easier to avoid attacks. She also has a stamina regen aura for blocking, and she can revive people without being interrupted, which is great, I think. Maybe. I can't see that really coming into use, honestly. Her dash is somewhat like Kruger's, except she moves through people. She doesn't knock them down, so it's not good at clearing hordes. It's more for her own mobility, so it's a little... I would say it's a little bit less... It's about as useful as Bardin's Ranger's smoke bomb. So there's that. And I've given her the sword and dagger because it combines the best worlds of the swords and the daggers. You got nice wide sweeping attacks followed by a stab, which is AP. You got a group sweep charge attack followed by a stab charge attack, which is a nice AP. It's faster than the two swords, a little bit slower than the daggers. So again, it's a good mix of abilities. And the shove is a stab, which is nice. The riposte stab is always a good thing. So I normally ran her with a spear, but I felt like I should just make her feel a little bit more different, make this class feel a little bit different than a wafer that got, a wafer class that just got redheaded stepchild, that, you know what I mean? So here, for her talents, you have increased stamina, increase your angle for blocks and pushes, and the increased ammunition amount. I gave her the increased ammunition. Again, she's got the longbow here, but she's not as effective. She does more damage. Wow. She's not as effective. Oh, that was a crit. That's why. As the Way Watcher, simply because, or Wayfarer, because she doesn't have as much ammo. But again, it's the longbow is such a versatile weapon with regards to armor piercing and crowd control. It's hard not to use it, to be perfectly honest. On top of that, she's got... so, again, increased ammo is useful for her. All these others, she might use the shield, but you should be spamming attacks with her, really. She's really going to be using shields for shoving. She'll dodge more than she blocks. For level 10, you've got this interesting ability, which basically converts all temporary health to permanent and clears wounds, which is that gray status, right, when a boss dies. So this can prevent the need for health potions down the line. You also have increasing your hero power, but reducing your attack speed, which we want to keep your attack speed up, in my opinion. That's just me. And then this one is finally reduced damage when Kerillian's last hero standing. I don't like those skills that depend on other people being dead, because frankly, they require other people being dead, and I hope that that never comes to the, that never comes to pass. So between the reduced attack speed and the last hero standing, I went with the only thing that actually just gives me bonuses, right? The Triumph of Kadai. Now, for 15, she's got increased movement speed, which I did here. Again, movement is good for the elf. She has an increased dodge distance, which isn't bad, so it was really a toss-up between those two. And finally, an increased stamina regeneration speed. So she really could stack stamina if she really wanted to here. You have your normal temporary and permanent health buffs for 20, and finally you have a bunch of these. So she can disappear on dash. Neat. She can now deal damage when she passes through them, but it doesn't stun them. I didn't even know it's stunned. I couldn't tell, honestly. And then it reduces the cooldown on dash. Honestly, I'd probably go with the reduced cooldown. If that does stun, as they say, that would be a good way of just zipping in and out and keeping things on their toes. Ultimately, I think this is her, personally, for my playstyle, it is her worst class. Let me know what you think about the class, or how you guys play her as Handmaiden. For the Shade, now you've unlocked her I'm Kane's bitch. Or rather, I'm not even sure it's Kane, but she wants to kill things and murder them from the back as a dark elf. Now, of course, she's not a dark elf. They're all the elves are elves now in the Warhammer lore, but here she's accepted her role as Slayer and Murderer. So, as befits any kind of assassin, I gave her the daggers. The twin daggers are some of my favorite because of the sheer attack speed, which is, I would say, slightly faster than Bardin's Slayer class. They're about as fast as the Slayer class after his leap, right? Obviously, not a lot of sweep. We're talking about single target damage, not a lot of damage, but she's hitting fast. And if you're going for headshots, this will pop heads off left and right, just as good as Kruger's Rapier, and that's saying a lot. For single targets that have armor, you've got a thrust and a stab, not in that order. So really good at getting behind someone, stabbing them in the back, and killing them, especially if they've got a shield or if it's a boss. This is really good at causing increased amounts of damage. Right? You'll notice there that these stabs, by the way, are doing 2 hits. So double stab to the head, yeah, that's good times. I've given her the Shade Crossbow, not because I like it, it's okay, but because she's only class that can run it, right? So this Shade Crossbow looks like Salt Spears, but one, it does reload faster. So if I pump out a bunch of bolts, you'll see that's as fast as it fires. The reload animation is a lot quicker than Salt Spear's, right? Salt Spear pulls his crossbow quite a bit longer. What's also different is if I hold the right click for a zoom, that was weird, right? The reticle didn't spread, it shrunk. So Salt Spear, when he uses his crossbow, that reticle spreads left and right, and you fire a spread of bolts across the screen, kind of like the spread shot from Contra. Here, the reticle is snapping, and when you shoot, you get 3 bolts, and you saw there was a little bit of rise there, but you do get 3 bolts in a row. There, you saw all 3 hitting there, and it's really good at especially body-shotting specials. It won't always guarantee a death, but it's mostly guaranteed that if you hit a special in the body with this thing, it's going down. The biggest problem you can probably see is the amount of ammo. She's got 30 shots, so that's literally 10 shots between both reloads if you're doing the spread shot. Feels like the the M4 in old school shooter games, or the M16 where you have a triple shot burst. That's basically what this is, right? You've got your M16 here, or M4. Actually, I don't think the M4 has a through run burst, does it? That's just semi-automatic and automatic. Anyway, whatever. Point being, that's what it feels like. It's really good at snapshots and taking out those specials at a medium to short range. Most of her damage, though, is going to be these daggers. Now, what about her skills? Well, passively, she does more damage when stabbing them in the butt. And critical stabs in the butt will automatically slay man-sized enemies. Again, she's really good at stabbing things in the butt. But help me, Frost. Why does everybody try to stab me? How can I get around them? That's where her active comes in. It makes her undetectable for 10 seconds or until she attacks, much like Kruger's little skill, except she moves fast, and it doesn't stun anyone. She literally just poof, and you can get behind them, and oh hey, look, you're behind them. Look at that damn. Oh yeah, whatever that is, it's dead now. I mean, that's just yeah, that's not happening. And so once you're on the outside and they've stopped paying attention to you, you just stab them all in the back like this, and it's good times, and you've just killed everyone and saved all your friends. And then you get hit by an assassin because you weren't paying attention. So that is the shades, or how I play the shade. Now for the talents, you have increased stamina regen, increased attack speed. Why wouldn't you increase your attack speed if you're going to stab people? And increased dodge range, which could be helpful. Again, kill it before it kills you is my credo with this class. Increased movement speed, again, to help her dance around and behind the enemies. That's why I've picked that. She can increase damage taken by enemies when she's been disabled. Again, that's kind of a mitigation thing. You're increasing damage when someone's already hurt you, so you're depending on your friends there. Here, it's kind of interesting. I kind of thought about this one. Sienna has skills, and Saltzpyre has skills where if you're carrying 1 Grim, you can increase your stats. 25% is a lot. So that's something you might want to look at. With regards to level 15, you've got Murder's Prowess, which increases your... Aerith Kael's Herald, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it increases your damage bonus for backstabs, so that's always good. Mistress of Sacrifice, which increases your angle for backstabs, you don't have to be directly behind them, and then Blood Fetcher, which returns 1 bolt or arrow. Now, I picked that one, obviously, because she doesn't have a lot of ammo to begin with, so that's something where, I'm going to want to be recovering as much ammo as possible. And especially when you have the daggers, you're going to be getting a lot of backstabs. Level 20, same old as before, temporary, maximum, and then of course, or not maximum, permanent, and then of course her active skill buff. So increased duration of infiltrate, probably useful. Stealth no longer breaks when firing Kerillian's ranged weapon. That could be pretty hilarious. And then of course reduced cooldown. I might do the reduced cooldown again. That's so I can spam that. Rather than one big one, I get a bunch of them, right? So now I'm going to leave her on the Waystalker, because that's what she does best as a bot. In my game, at least. I'm going to skip Salt Spear. Again, look, he's level 3. I think I used him once. And that's because everyone else was being used. Sienna. She was my second favorite, really, in Vermintide 1. Mostly because I like fire. I am a bit of a pyro, right? I'm not going to lie. So, let me tell...
Hey.
So, I played a lot of Sienna back in Vermintide. So, what I've done here for her Battle Wizard, which is her originating class, is I've given her the Battle Wizard Longsword. I like both this and the Mace, but I do the Battle Wizard Longsword because it's a little bit more versatile, and plus it's a bit fluffy. Graduates of the college, get one of these swords. So it just feels fluffy that she'd be using this thing. It's got nice wide sweeps as well as an overhead, and then her charge attacks are guaranteed sweeps, right? So it's really good at crowd control. It swings faster than the flaming sword, or at least it feels like it does. It's got a good wide range of attack, plus that overhead helps. The riposte is a shove sweep, like you see there. And again, it's very, very versatile. It's not particularly good at anything, but it's not particularly bad at anything, and that's almost more important, because you're going to be relying on this when you can't use your staves. So for her staff, I have here the beam staff, which they recently changed. This was much better in Vermintide 1, and much better until 2 days ago. The primary and the beam staff fires a beam, which largely does crap damage. You'll see here it's barely hitting him, unless you're doing headshots. And the headshots do hilarious amounts of damage, right? So with the beam staff, you want to be getting headshots, which is a bit difficult because you're not going to want to get one headshot. You're going to want to get multiple headshots. So you're going to want to keep that head painted. I'll admit, it feels like you're shining like a laser in someone's face. That's what it feels like. Little nips until they keel over and die. What's more beneficial here is the secondary attack. So you hold the right button, she charges, right? But then when you hit the left button, you get a nice blast. That blast doesn't look like much, but if I just did that, basically everything from here to about there, yeah, so from here to about there, just got hit. They'll be knocked back, stunned, and burst into flames. Really great for crowd control. It also does significant amounts of damage, so that area burst is incredibly effective. This gives her a versatile option with the staff because she can, at range, poke something in the face, and then when it comes close, she can pop them with a shotgun blast like that. Her passive is that she can automatically vent if she hasn't done anything for like 8 seconds. There, do you see it proc there? That means if you look at her heat, it's dropping down much more quickly now. So, as you can see her passives, if she doesn't take damage and doesn't cast spells for 8 seconds, she starts to vent automatically. As her overcharge increases, as her heat builds, she can charge spells faster, and she does an overall increased range damage. For her active, she teleports, which is fantastic for both aggressive and non-aggressive reasons. Any teleport, as you know, will allow you to escape or get into things, but if there's a nice column of people, like if there's a column of rats running down this section, I could teleport behind them, turn around, shotgun blast them, and now not only are they stunned, but they're also in the fire that I just left. So it's a good way to, again, take care of crowds, and that teleport does charge relatively fast. So what does she have for talents? At level 5, you can increase your healing, you can get an extra stamina shield, or you can get range attack charge speed. Now I have hit here in case I swap her to the bolt for the bot. So if she's a bot, you give her the bolt staff, and the bot will tend to use a lot of those bolts. Give her this charge speed, maybe they'll be faster bolts. I don't know. Basically, you're firing more powerful spells quicker. Level 10, nearby enemies increase your power. This is for things like the flamethrower staff or like the shotgun blast on the beam staff. You're going to be next to them, might as well increase your power while they're next to you. You can do a reduced damage taken when you're last one standing. Again, I don't like those because it depends on someone being down. And of course, reduce stun duration from being hit by 50%. You shouldn't be hit. That's my theory at least. Level 15, reduce stamina, cost of blocking attacks when you're not being hit. It's kind of weird because when that's going to be useful is when you don't want to be... I don't know. It's kind of a weird catch-22. Well, maybe not. It's just weird. I don't like it. With rechannel, your charge time is reduced even further, so super fast fireballs if that's what you want. And then centered, which is probably what I'm going to pick. That's going to increase the amount of venting, basically. You get your normals here for the temporary health and whatnot. And here you can cool down your firewalk, which sounds like that's the way to go. You can make the firewalk trail linger longer. And then finally, you can make it so firewalk removes all overcharge. Now, because of her passive... Normally, I'd say that overcharge is really good, but the way her passive works, she shouldn't be gaining a lot of heat anyway, so I'm not too concerned about that. With the Pyromancer, I've changed things up a bit. With the Pyromancer, she doesn't have that passive, so you kind of gotta watch your overcharge a little bit. I've equipped with her here the Ceremonial Knife, which is fantastic, as well as the Flamethrower Staff, one of my favorite, the Flamestorm Staff. The knife is nice because it's a fast attack, and it's small sweep, not quite single target, like you might be able to hit 2 at once. And then you get that follow-up stab, which is kind of nice. Her shove stab is probably, in my opinion, one of the best shove stabs in the game. It's got pretty good range for a dagger, and again, you find yourself using that a lot against armored or larger opponents. Her charge attacks do a sweep followed by a stab, and what's nice about that stab, I don't know if you saw that, but it actually lit the dagger on fire. Now, my dagger is always on fire because of an illusion. It's not normally always on fire. It only lights on that second charge. And you'll see, boom, it leaves a little fire, bright wizard sign, and it will set your target on fire for some DOT. Because of the speed of this thing, it's a good way to crowd control simply from sheer speed, as well as it cuts through armor with the stabby attacks as well. Not nearly as good as the dual daggers, but it's still pretty versatile for being a knife, right? And you're going to be depending on it a lot, because frankly, you're going to be using a lot of your overcharge on her Flamestorm Staff. In this case, I've kitted her out to be quite a bit short-range focused, because a lot of the time, I'll be doing this, and just cooking things, right? So this is where all of my overcharge is going to be spent. Just like Bardin's Drake gun, she's got her own version. Now, because she has got an increased charge speed, she can let loose a lot quicker than Bardin can. But otherwise, it's Bardin's Drake gun, right? Except it's her, right? So what kind of talents and why did I choose this without any long-range attacks? Well, her passive increases your critical strike chance based on overcharge. So basically, the more heat I build up, the more damage I'm going to be doing with my dagger. So that's a good thing. Now, she does do increased range damage, so that should affect this flamethrower. And most importantly, her active is a fiery projectile that seeks out foes. In Vermintide 1, her bolt staff would shoot tracking missiles. So that's not here in Vermintide 2. They've replaced it with this active skill. And so that's where I get my ranged. If I see, I basically will save my charge for any special or any hard target and then fire one of these, right? Once that's loosed out to the world, that'll core through it'll pierce through a lot of regular rats, or it should guarantee a kill with a headshot on a special. It's not as good as a True Flight, but you get one powerful bolt rather than 3 strong bolts, if that makes sense. I still think the True Flight is as good, but look at how fast it charges. I mean, it's good for in a pinch, right? So that takes care of her range, and if something gets too close, again, you've got this to mitigate the hordes, and then should you be overheated, you still have a fast attack weapon, which, if you are too overheated, is still relatively quick if you're suffering from that slowdown from heat. With regards to talents, we have the focusing lens, which reduces your range attack spread, because I'm using a flamethrower. Doesn't matter, don't need it. You have your increased attack speed. Great, except not effective on staves. And here, reducing your overcharge. This is pretty much necessary if you're using the Flamestorm staff for lengthy periods of time. For level 10, reduce damage when disabled. Again, just don't get disabled. Dissipate, which increases your overcharge decay speed when you've got a Grimoire. So that's very important, because that means when you're carrying a Grim, you will never be overheated. Your overcharge drops so fast. It is quite fascinating. So yeah, pick up the Grim. And then finally, increase spell charge speed by 15%. You're not using that really too much with the Flamestorm staff. And on top of that, you have to be below 30% health, which is usually, don't go there. Just try not to die, right? So level 15, Critical Mass, which is your passive, also reduces stamina cost of blocking by 10% per overcharge, and it can stack pretty decent. Blazing Equilibrium, Critical Mass also reduces overcharge generated by 5%. So the more heat you have, the less you get from it. So I'm thinking we can do that. So between the Natural Talent, Dissipate, and Blazing Equilibrium, perhaps I'll never increase overcharge. I'll just flame forever, right? And finally, One with the Flame, where this increases your attack speed with overcharge. So, and there's a reason why I wouldn't pick that. That's because of the next class she has, which is going to be the final one that we review today. For level 20, you have your normal, temporary health, and then the permanent health. And then finally, for level 25, you have Burning Head, which removes all overcharge. So that's interesting. I guess that's one way of doing it rather than what I've done here. You can also restore health when you fire... Oh, wait, I see. Burning Head is the active skill. My apologies. So when you fire that bolt, you remove overcharge. You shouldn't need it because of these three, You can restore health. It's only 10. Sure, you can spam it, but it's only 10. Just try not to take damage, I guess. And then finally, reduces the cooldown of the Burning Head. That is what you want. 30% reduce cooldown, as well as any equipment you can do to reduce cooldown, like an 8% there. I mean, that's huge. If you can spam this thing, specials for days, right? So that's where I'm going to leave that. Finally, you have Unchained, which, frankly, I was looking at the Unchained class, and I thought, this is silly. Why would you want a CQB, like a melee fire sorcerer? That's not what sorcerers do. You stand back and cook things, right? Turns out I've fallen madly in love with this class. And at first it's like, all right, you've got to sit there and you've got to balance yourself between how much heat you're generating versus, it's hard, right? So this class is a bit interesting. If you look at your skills, right, 50% damage taken transferred to overcharge. So if you get hit, it's going into your overcharge. You're gaining heat. You have no overcharge slowdown. That's imperative. So with most classes, if you increase your overcharge, that bar here, you'll move slower as you fill that bar. Not this class. You move at normal speed, which is very important, right? You also have increased melee power on high overcharge. So the higher your overcharge is, the more damage you're going to be doing in melee. Good to know. You have a reduced block cost on high overcharge. So that means you will be able to block more efficiently in melee with your overcharge, right? And then finally, that consumes overcharge if you block. So don't block too much, but block as much as you want. So bam, we're at high overcharge here. And you'll notice I haven't seen a slowdown at all on my melee abilities. Now the danger is if you've charged as much as I just did there, and then you get hit, you'll blow up. So that's where you have to be careful about the line. Right, you gotta stay within that third box without going too far, and that's why I have picked the weapons that I have. Right, so her active ability basically clears all her overcharge, and she explodes as if she would have overcharged herself to death. Right, instead she just basically vents it all. She explodes. You don't die though. In this case, it's a manual kind of overcharge exceeded critical mass button, and it does a lot of damage to surrounding enemies, so it's fantastic to see it happen. And if you're on the line or you're worried about crossing it, like someone's about to hit you, just hit your overcharge button and then clear that out, before you blow up. So again, this is why I chose those weapons. The one thing is that her melee attacks with a fire sword are vicious. The damage over time is ridiculous with these things. You'll see that they're all sweeping attacks. These are my charge attacks. That fist is a sweeping attack. She doesn't grab people, which is unfortunate. Then you have your, just like the regular sword, a sweep, stab. It's a little bit slower than the regular sword, or it feels a little bit slower. I could be hallucinating there. Point is, though, if you're doing charge attacks and you have high overcharge, you're going to be gutting things with this class, so you won't even need to worry too much about blocking at all. Which brings me to the fireball staff. So this gives you some range, right? You can take down specials, you can spam fireballs to annoy things, or actual charged fireballs to beat things in groups. But the biggest thing is, you spam enough of them, and you see that? I've generated a lot of overcharge. So being able to spam fireballs will keep me in a state of high melee damage, right? And that's what you want in this class. So boom! Release that if you're afraid you're going to get cooked, and hope you are surrounded, because it's going to destroy those things. So charge up as fast as you can, blow up as many things as you can, and you can see she can fire fireballs kind of for days, then get in there and use that overcharge to your advantage, right? So tons of fun. Throw fireballs at your feet if you're not on champion or veteran, and call it a day. The talents so far are, for level 5, you have a better block push arc, increases your max overcharge by 25%, giving you a little bit more room. That's why I chose that one, for just to make sure I don't blow up too quickly. You can increase your maximum health by 20%, which is kind of nice. You also have, for level 10, increased stamina regen, as well as this weird one, which I think it was Kerillian who had something like this, where you kill a boss and then any temporary health and wounds are cleared up, which is kind of nice. And then revived allies take 25% less damage for 5 seconds. It's like half the one that Bardin has. Exactly, half the amount of time, half the amount of less damage. Level 15 reduces damage taken from venting overcharge. I don't understand this one, because you want to build overcharge. You never want to be venting here, because 1, you can clear the vent by blocking. 2, you can clear the vent by active skill. So not really sure what the point of that one is. You can also increase the rate of venting. Again, you don't want to vent. You want to use that for blocking and other things. And then finally, reduce overcharge generated by 15%. I'm not sure what I would want to do here, to be perfectly honest. If anything, it might be natural talent, only to throw more fireballs. Maybe give you a little bit finer control over how much overcharge you're generating. But yeah, there it is. Finally, for level 20, you get your normals, and then for level 25, you can increase the radius for your living bomb by 50%. That's huge. Probably what I'd be looking at. You never know. You can increase the damage, or, and actually this is really what I'd be doing, reduce the cooldown, which means you can vent sooner and more regularly and blow more things up. So really enjoying this class. Anyway, thus ends part 2 of the class and character overview. I may do Salt's Pirate at some point, but I wanted to give you an idea of who I was playing, what I was playing, and what they were equipped with, so you kind of had an idea of how I approached the game. If there are any types of videos, tutorials, guides, or whatever you want to see, message me in the comments and let me know. Otherwise, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and this is Eternal Frost signing out.